What is going on, everyone? Scartifist here. Today, I'm going to be giving you all my first thoughts and an analysis on the upcoming full release of Freeman Guerrilla Warfare, a game that quite frankly has been doing very well for itself and that I've enjoyed very much in my 160 hours of playtime. So we're going to be looking at the most recent blog posts by the devs, one on November 18th and one today, December 2nd. And they kind of are like a continuation, or the second, this one that was released today is a continuation of the one we saw on November 18th. So looking at November 18th, we can see that a lot of these features that are being proposed for the future are quality of life additions. For example, you have a game tutorial, localization, and optimization. I really like these changes, or not changes, but these features, because they're going to make the game feel more complete, fluid, and most importantly, they're going to make it more accessible to gamers, right? To potential customers. This is something that will definitely help out, particularly optimization, because I know for a fact that this game, you need some firepower to run it decently right now. I also know that there was a picture by one of the devs that said the memory usage was reduced by 50%. That's very good in general. I'm super psyched about that. And hopefully these changes, are all of them at least, are implemented. Now, there's two features that really caught my eye when looking at the November 18th post, and that's going to be diplomacy and defensive structures. Now, for diplomacy, it states that they will be adding events that will increase/decrease the relationship with each faction and consequences of changing the relationship. So I think this is going to add another layer of depth to the game eventually. Initially, I don't think it's going to be much. I think it's literally just going to be there to help you be a friend with one of the factions, and that's good because right now factions, as of the latest patch, have become aggressive. They will actively, like, if you're neutral with these pals, they will actively seek to conquer land, right? Like in my playthrough, the ARF freaking attacked for no reason, and we were neutral with them. They just decided to attack Babin, right? So when they say consequences, I'm really hoping that if you're like friends, they'll send troops to help or join your fights, and if you're like enemies, they'll like stack on you and try to take you out and shit like that. That's gonna be so much fun, and it's gonna make the game feel more dynamic and like you're actually fighting against these AI, not that they're just sitting there kind of waiting it out for you to grow big and attack. It'll definitely make the early game more intense, which is the really fun part of the game in my opinion. I do have one question though about the diplomacy, and hopefully you guys might be able to answer this, or we'll get some clarity in the future, and that is, do these events apply to the AI on AI? And what I mean by this is saying that for 100% the player will be able to pick these events that will decrease or increase the relationship. What about AI? Like, do they get the events and they like automatically pick? Because if they do, that's going to be so much fun. Like, I don't want this to be the player just playing by a separate set of rules. I want everyone to be playing on the same like level, or they should be like have the same features or events pop up for them, right? This shouldn't be like exclusive like what a Total War game does essentially. Okay, so moving on from that, we got defensive structures. Now, this got me hyped up when I initially saw it. I was just like, holy crap, we get mortars in towns now. And that was just an example. I don't think it's just going to be mortars, guys. Like, this is implying defensive structures is saying that it's multiple. So it could be walls, it could be mounted turrets, and I personally would like to see turrets that you have to have garrison or troops mount, because in that case you're being incentivized to actually garrison troops into the city, because right now nobody usually garrisons into the city for the sake of defending. Like, I know for a fact that I never do, because it's just like, there's no reason. If I get attacked by an AI, it gives me 120 seconds to respond. You got a truck or 5 navigation or both, that's never a concern to you. The only time it's a concern is if they are stacking vehicles and you don't have a single vehicle to counter. That's the only time a siege becomes a concern, right? But I do feel like by adding, turrets that need to be manned, or just like these defensive structures that need maintenance, it's definitely going to make battles and defenses so much more intense. Can you imagine you going up to freaking Minov and your entire squad gets hit by a mortar and it's just chaos, absolute chaos as you try to command your way out of the situation, right? And the same goes vice versa. Uh, but yeah, like I was saying about the whole garrisoning problem, that's an issue that's like separate from this. Like that's something to do with the siege mechanics, which I'm pretty sure the devs will work out eventually. As you can see with their total balancing of the game, which is what they're looking towards in the full release. So I have no doubt that these small little nitpicks that I have right now will all be addressed later on. So yeah, with that said, selling prisoners, I like that a lot. Multiple save slots, more locations to conquer. That'll be nice. So yeah, pretty good so far, I have to say. Now, before we actually go to the second blog post, I want to actually bring into attention the training ground. Now, this I find to be very interesting because my initial assumption about this is that it's basically an area where you can increase your weapon proficiencies. Otherwise, why would it be added there? Right? Like, I really think that it's the only logical explanation for being there. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I pretty much think it's just you increase your weapon proficiencies there, maybe to a certain point, and that's it. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. This is like a question mark for now. All right, so moving on from November 18th, we have the post that was today. And immediately the first thing that I notice is gunplay improvements. Now, that's a big thumbs up for me because while the gunplay is decent in this game, it could use some work. The most important thing that I noted was that the textures are being replaced with HD counterparts. Now, this is kind of like a double-edged sword for me, and here's the reason why. On the one hand, it's going to look so much nicer. Like, you can take a look at these images right now. The game looks so much better. Even compared to when the vehicle update dropped and the update prior, the graphic overhaul could be seen, but this just takes it out of the next level. And we're going to talk more about graphics later down as we continue through this this post. But yeah, back to gunplay. I like that they're adding the textures, but I am concerned that this is going to cause the CPU to work harder, or like memory usage to be higher. Even though they did say they were reducing it by 50%, you got to imagine textures are up and it's going to require probably more resources at the very least to render. Now, I don't know too much about how this works, but I got to imagine that something's going to be used up, to say the least. Now, we don't know, right? I don't know too much about what it takes to render these things, but yeah. I don't think it's going to be too much of a big deal, though. I think that these textures are only so much. It's the rest of the environment that I'm kind of a little bit skeptical about in terms of performance-wise. Like, I think it'll run fine on most PCs, but there will definitely be some struggles because going from what we had prior to the vehicle update to this, to like realistic, resources are going to be spent somewhere, right? Like, something's got to give. But yeah, beside that, back to guns. So there's going to be more sounds. There's going to be better scopes, I think. Yeah, they're adding more scopes as well to the game. And this is going to be very, very good because right now there are just a bunch of generic sounds with the guns that get tired. I get tired of hearing that shit all the time. Having more scopes, I think that'll just be good for diversity and to customize your weapon, make you feel unique. So overall, gunplay, very good. I hope they fix that bug with the, and I know it's a bug right now, the ACOG with the SCAR, because that's 100% misaligned slightly to the right. Like, I'm pretty sure it's misaligned. No, I know it's misaligned. Sorry. Yeah. All right, so now we're moving on to AI, and wow, this is something that... This was even more impressive than gunplay, honestly. They're going to use tactics now. Like, they've already been using tactics in this patch, such as flanking me, and they've killed me more times than they did in my last playthrough, just because the AI was in a place I didn't expect it to be, right? But looking at this image, it just seems like they're not going to all be deploying one direction. They're all, like, look at this. They're using flanking methods. They're drawing, like, this is so good by the AI, and it's going to make for a serious challenge. Like, if they can learn to use like high ground, low ground, or if they do, having pauses might not be an insta win. Now for bandits it will be, but for other factions, like, it's already hard enough to take them on with the vehicles. Can you imagine if these vehicles used proper tactics to flank with their troops? Every battle will be a fight for your life, and that's the kind of like grit that I want to see, especially since I'm playing on very hard difficulty. I don't want a cakewalk, right? But yeah, this is super good. Now, something else that's very important that I don't know if you guys missed or you probably didn't double check. Sniper squads have been nerfed to the ground. They have finally addressed the Pozna problem to the best extent that they can, aside from just outright taking away their stats, which I don't think would be the right move. But they have essentially made it so that a sniper squad can only consist of 2 people. And if you think about it in real life, this makes sense. Well, yeah, a sniper has a spotter and the actual shooter himself. But yeah, you can't go freaking nine snipers just trained up, lining up, ready to firing squad someone across the map. Like, they no longer will Poznas be able to completely decimate an army that doesn't have sniper support, because honestly, it's broken. But yeah, this is a really good way of addressing the problem, and it forces army diversity. Now, I know some people might not like this because, oh, I can't just win the game with pauses. Well, the thing is, there's lower difficulties if you're having trouble, and I think that everyone eventually will come to like this change, right? This makes it so that you are conservative with just spamming pauses. Like, you actually need a good army composition to win the day. This isn't just whoever has the most stats and cookie cutter to win. But yeah, this is so good. Like, I'm super glad they're finally addressing the Poznan problem, and I like the solutions that are being put forth. Now, I do have one question though regarding sniper squads. Not even sniper squads, but squads in general. Since squads have been reworked, does this mean that certain types, like certain classes, will only be allowed certain number of units? I think, well, actually, no, it does mean that, but I'm wondering what it means for other classes. Like, for example, can I still have 9 grenadiers, 9 machine gunners, 9 ARF, or is it going to be like 4, 3, or 5? That, if it's the latter, man, I'm gonna have so much fun building the army if it's the latter. I'm gonna tell you right now, like, just trying to find the best combinations to slot in against this, opponent. Like, army composition will actually be, strategical and well thought out, rather than we're gonna slap, like with the Poznas, a bunch of stats together and win just like that. All right, so let's move on. Now, we were talking about this within the previous post as well as a little bit earlier, and that's going to be just the graphics overall. Now, you can see with the terrain, it's much more detailed, bigger, different. The new terrain will, have more possibilities, yada, yada, yada. The game looks so much better. It's no longer like Microsoft Paint level. Like, this is actually properly rendered, and I can get behind this kind of stuff. But the most important thing is they're saying that they're going to be adding different tactics and like different. They're going to be making terrain that adds gameplay and tactics. Well, different uses of those. So I'm wondering one thing though: have they patched the rock glitch? Because that's just kind of funny but stupid. Like, being able to hide in a rock and just blow people out of the water is kind of like iffy, but I'm pretty sure they will. Alright, so as you can see, guys, they've obviously said that they've overhauled the graphics, added new lighting systems, more realism, yada yada yada, basically stuff that was touched upon before. But the most important thing I want you guys to notice is look at the placement of Guerrilla and Dubno and compare it to what you see now. They have moved the locations closer to each other, right? And obviously they're under control of different factions, but that's because it's literally day 67. Like, most of my games don't go past day 10. Like I'm day 6 and I've conquered almost all of the South, right? Like this has probably been let to go for a while. Now with that said, I think this is how they managed to reduce the resource use of the game, by putting the locations closer together and obviously adding more to compensate for that. Just gonna make for a bloodier battlefield, and I like it, right? Volumetric lighting, HDR skybox. This is really good. Like they did such a good job with the graphics. Now something else you guys want to probably take a look at is look at these additional icons. I know the apple right here on like the top right, far right, that's food. That's obviously gonna be money with the coins. Now I do not know what these other the one with the star like is. I have no clue. Could it like be a different value or resource, or like I have no clue what that is. I'm assuming the one beside that is gas, but yeah, I can't really make it out. All I do know is that with this, you can expect that the locations have been all jumbled around. Like by making Gorinka and Dubno closer, what have they done with Antapil and Rogachiv and you know, Tayum Base, and just there's so many possibilities. Like I'm super psyched to see it become a reality. So moving on, we have characters. I think this is just pretty generic, right? The characters are more optimized, they look better, that's really nice. But there's one thing I do want to point out, and it's the headpiece, which appears to be a do-rag that this guy has. Like the third guy and the first guy, like apparently they have like do-rags now, so maybe they added like a bunch more headpieces. Actually no, they definitely added more headpieces, which is good. All right, so the final thing that we got is the UI. Now this looks absolutely good, great. Like I don't have a single problem with this. I think that it looks more modern, it looks more compact, and it's easier on the eyes, you know what I mean? And that's a very big deal. Like I don't want, like, ammo is no longer crowding up my inventory, and that was a big deal for me. There's not really much I have to say about the UI, although the character model does look like the Sims 4, Sims 3, but that's beside the point. Yeah, I hope they keep this UI because it definitely looks more modern and more just better to look at overall. So now that I look at everything, right, it's very clear from these two posts that the devs are trying to make the game feel more dynamic. And what I mean by this is, up until the latest vehicle update, right, the game would get predictable and repetitive very quickly. Like by the time you took your first settlement, you had already done almost 90% of what the game had to offer. Obviously you could upgrade, you could do your settlement and your troops, you could buy, you know, trucks, or yeah, prior to the vehicle update, you could buy trucks, upgrade those, right? You could even, you know, gamble some of your money. Now I'm not saying that this linear style of gameplay, air quotes, right, it's such a, people have made it seem like such a bad word, but it's not. Like linearness in a game isn't necessarily bad, and for this particular genre I think the devs are super smart in sticking to that kind of linearness, because the ultimate goal is to conquer, right? They're just adding a bunch of little side features that you can do to make it more unique, but at the end of the day you're gonna conquer. So every feature, it's based around helping you achieve that end goal, right? It's not trying to do too much. Games like Star Citizen, which will never come out, right, trying to do way too fucking much in my opinion. But I'm not here to critique other games. All I'm here is to basically share with you guys what I think about this upcoming update, and as you can't already probably tell, I love it, right? The devs are adding more variables that can influence the game and make it a bigger and better and more unique experience. So yeah, that's essentially all I have to say. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.